Hi guys, welcome back to the Non-Immigrant Student Podcast. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Tolu Esther Olukomi. My whole name, yes, that's me. What else do you need to know before we jump right into it? I've been doing this podcast now for about 2 years, 2021, and I've recently been in my feelings about it. So even today I was like, why am I shy? Why am I feeling shy? I'm just alone in my room recording. But yeah, it's been a ride. Thank you all for sticking along this far. Next week it will be 3 years since I got my, is it 2.5 years or 3 years since I got my visa approval to come school in the US, and now I'm working. So yes, and people ask me why you're not a non-immigrant worker. I really don't know, because the story will always be that I came here on a student visa, so I'm sticking to that. Anyway, on today's episode, we'll be discussing the feedback I received from some listeners. Shout out to the three of you who sent in reviews. I appreciate you all. And then I'll just be gisting you what I'm up to, what I was up to last weekend, and what I'm going to be up to in my upcoming trip to Mexico. So yes, I'm really excited. Okay, so yeah, let's jump right into it.
Ask about me on the streets of Ithaca. They will tell you I'm popular everywhere. I'm that new Nigerian girl who just came here and has friends in all sects and factions of this university. MBA, graduate students, undergraduate students, PhD students. Like, girl, I'm popular. But yeah, welcome to the Non-Immigrant Student Podcast. This is the podcast where if I can do it, you can do it too.
Hi guys, welcome back. How do you like this new transition? So I just realized that I think I want to do it this way since I discovered, if you listen to last episode, I talked about how I rediscovered my very first trailer for this podcast, and I was like, I think this should be a good intro every episode, even though I sound very eye-rolling at the beginning. I'm very cringe, but that's still who I was or who I am. So yeah, I've accepted it. But yes, I was popular when I was in Cornell. I think to an extent, yeah, there was just, but yeah, let's forget about that. Anyway, welcome back to another episode. I'm so happy to be back. It's been 2 weeks, but it's giving consistency. Usually I record like once a month, but I'm so happy to be back, honestly. And I'm happy that I'm beginning to feel a sense of duty to my listeners and to myself. So yes, A+ to me for showing up and to you guys for being here to listen. And yes, I'd like to shout out the 3 people who actually submitted feedback. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Sometimes I keep looking at Google Forms, can people take back their responses? And no, apparently they cannot. So thank you. Thank you so much for submitting it, and thank you too. I'd like to specially shout out the one subscriber I have. I shared it here that my sister was my first subscriber. I'd like to shout her out. I also like to shout out the 6 people who have purchased t-shirts and also signed up to purchase. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Like I said, I'm in my feelings, so thank you all. Thank you. So yes, like I mentioned, I am going to Mexico in about 48 hours. I'm so excited. I'm one of those people now on social media who are like 2 more sleeps till I travel. So I'm finally happy to be going on vacation. And I remember I had a friend ask me, but you've been traveling since the beginning of the year. I've been traveling since March. In March, I was in Florida, I was in Atlanta. And then I think next time I traveled was in May to Ithaca, New York. And then in June, I traveled to Toronto. In July, I traveled to DC. In August, Wales. I traveled to Minnesota and Minneapolis in Minnesota. And then I also went back to Ithaca also to speak. And then I feel like I've been somewhere else. And I just came back. Yes, and I went to Dallas, Texas for Woman Evolve. And now I'm traveling again. And when I'm back from Mexico, I have another work trip. And then one last trip for Thanksgiving. That was a mouthful. But yes, this is the vacation. All those ones were just trips. This is the vacation. I'm literally not going with my laptop. That's how vacation it is. I even told my teammates that I will not be going with my laptop. Let it be known. But I will be reachable via cup phone. But I will try to be reachable. So I'm actually so excited. I have clearly overpacked. I'm checking in a bag, my biggest bag in my suitcase trio. I'm just like, I need at least a backup option for every outfit, and I was like, I'm not shopping for new clothes because shopping for kimonos and summer clothes to take to Mexico, like when I'm back, who's going to wear it? And in which weather? So I'm like, I'm so proud of that financial decision that I made, I'm so proud. If you if you knew the state of my finances, you would be proud of me too. But yes, so I'm excited for that. Anyway, how's your week been? Things seem to be quiet everywhere. I mean, aside from the unrest in Israel right now, which is not funny. Like even at the office, like they sent out this email how they were discussing with Googlers also in Israel, trying to make sure that they were okay wherever they are. And I love how Google always makes us feel cared for, thought about. Yes, people say, I mean, we're all in golden handcuffs, but I guess we all chose to be in the golden handcuffs. But yeah, so that was nice of them. I know that also people who are migrating, I'm hearing there's a migration crisis too. I think New York is getting fuller. Shelters are reaching capacity. Well, I hope everyone is fine, Sometimes there's some days this country just stresses me. And there's some days I remind myself, well, I choose to be here. So, yeah. But yeah, aside that, I hope you're good. Some highlights for me last week. I don't think I posted this on my non-immigrant Instagram. I went to a comedy club with a good friend of mine who was in town that evening, and I realized I think that's my favorite. When people ask me, what do you like to do? When people come from out of town, I'm like, you should take me out. I'm usually like, I don't know where to go except comedy clubs, and I don't know if it's your type of thing, because it's full of expletives, and people could literally say offensive things, and I don't know how you take it, but it teaches me so much about America, American lingo, even just about the world. I find now that stand-up comedians might probably be one of the smartest people in the world, having to cater to different kinds of people in their audience, and I find I enjoy that compared to eating out and trying out different cuisine. I'm such a picky eater that is not fun for me. I also enjoy going for painting classes. There's a candle making class too I'm trying to go for. I've also done acting classes, so I'm really trying to experience New York to the best of my capacity. But these days I'm also becoming a hermit, and I hope that's not a problem or signal of anything, or maybe it's just the weather, I don't know. But yeah, that's how my weekend went. I was indoors for 3 days. I didn't have to join church online. I was just like, and then I spent, I think, my whole of Sunday and Saturday packing. Like, packing is such a sport for me. Like, I have to write down things so I don't forget. I have to have a notes doc. Over planning just so I don't forget anything. It's crazy. It's really, because it's so annoying to have everything that you need but not be able to carry it along with you. And then you have to buy it. It's just it's just a waste of money. So I'm like, I'd rather have everything I need. But yeah, and if you want my packing list, I could share it with you too. It includes devices, toiletries, makeup, clothes, belts, jewelry, bag, skincare. Even if I need my hair appliances. I remember the last trip, because I had to straighten my hair, I took my straightener with me. If it means I have to check in a bag, I'm going to check in that bag. If it means I have to take a perfume, I'm going to check in that bag. So those are some of the other, I don't know if to call it unwise financial decisions, but what has to be done has to be done. But anyway, so yeah, that's my current life update. And at work, I mean, I said I was going to share this sparingly before I go into like the podcast feedback that I got from some of you. Lately, I've been learning to stand up for myself at work, and I'm finding that white men can really be great allies, if you really have a good one around you, who you notice is an ally. How they teach us in all these leadership programs, like have sponsors at work, have mentors, have people who can speak up for you in rooms. I'm happy that I have someone like that who's at work and who also doubles as my manager. I'm really grateful for that. I recently at work, something happened and I was feeling demotivated, but I think he caught up on it even before I caught up on it. I just noticed that I was withdrawing, because a lot of the things they say happen here, the microaggressions, the racism, that's not what I'm calling it though, but a lot of these things that happen mentally and emotionally. Nobody comes to your face to tell you, oh, you're black and I hate you, oh, you're black and I think you're underqualified, oh, you're black and I think there's a problem with you. It happens like emotionally, unconsciously, and before you know it, you're already like doubting, what you know to be true, or doubting. I was like, wait, everyone has been telling me how great a job I've been doing, but how come because of this event, all of a sudden I feel like shit, or I feel like, oh, maybe, you just, yeah, I don't know how deep I want to go into it, but anyway, I'm happy that he noticed and he encouraged me to speak up for myself. He always reminds me how he has my back. Even though sometimes it's like I roll, but I've seen it now once or twice happen to be true. So I'm choosing to trust, to trust this ally and this sponsor. And he encouraged me that even whether or not this is the team lead, whether or not these people are like 3-4 levels above you, like nobody no, but everyone cares about getting the job done. We're not here to protect each other's feelings. I know he would always tell me we're not here to make friends, but I'm not also out here trying to make enemies, right? But because being googly is a whole thing at work. Like there are people who have lost promotion. So I heard, because someone just made a comment that person isn't googly, or that person didn't invite me to a meeting, or that person didn't speak nicely to me, which is all subjective. But I think Google also holds that value high and true because they believe that you should also not be an asshole while working, right? You should treat people with respect. That's a big deal too at the company. So anyway, and that's something I did recently that I was proud of myself. I was able to reach out to those people and I gave them feedback. You know how they always say feedback is a gift. Of course, I packaged it nicely. I told them with some cute little red bows. I was like, hi, X and Y, I'd like to provide you with this feedback. I noticed that I was left out of this meeting, and about 3 months ago, if this hadn't happened, I know I would have been there. I need you to trust me because I need the experience to grow. If, knowledge is not being passed around the team, then we can't strategically grow. I used all this like buzz. I meant everything I was saying, but I'm happy that I was able to be strategic about the feedback. I put my feelings aside. Even whether or not I was sad, of course, it made me feel sad or bad. But, I was really trying to point out why I felt like I should have been there, that this was my project. Like, you can't tell me, oh, you were invited because it's about the leads. Gosh, that thing pissed me off. I'm like, okay, if it's about the leads, but it's my project, then why are the leads not fucking doing it, So anyway, so I'm happy that I was able to stand up for myself in that way. And the feedback I got was, thank you so much for telling me. That's a complete oversight on my part. Even my team lead was like, okay, that's definitely something that if I didn't tell him, he wouldn't have picked up on. So, instead of playing victim and thinking, oh my God, I'm black, that's why I've been left out, So, I would rather not play the victim card first, but try to address it, try to ask why, and I try to be polite and professional about it. So I'm really proud of myself for standing up for myself at work. So yes, and if you're, wherever you are too, if you're in school, if you're still with your teammates, like, it can be tough, especially when you already walk on eggshells around, people who you're not used to at the office or at school. Is sometimes you just and I think I learned that while I was in school, different methods of handling conflict. Some people decide to collaborate on the issue like I did, some people withdraw like I also did, some people avoid, and some people are actually outright toxic, in handling it. So you need to learn which ones to do so that people also understand your style of work. So yeah, that was a win for me in the past week. So yes, and about my trip to Mexico, I'm so happy. I think if you followed me on Instagram for a while, you remember when I had COVID, I think I posted about it. If I know who I am, I trust myself to have documented it on that Instagram. I did post when I first got COVID in January of 2021. So I stayed with my auntie and uncle, and they're the ones who I will be going to Mexico for their wedding vow renewal after 10 years. So I'm so excited and honored that I could be invited to that event. And I think I can share this because it's all on their LinkedIns. So if you're popular with Jobberman back in Nigeria, he was the founder and CEO before he sold it to investors, I think. So I think that's public knowledge. So, and he has been my teenage teacher since I was, 10 years ago, since I was 17. And then, I've grown up. My parents were also their marriage counselor. Everything just feels so full circle, to be able to be there today and in the US at this time when they're doing it and to be able to afford to travel. So I'm grateful. And they were even at my Covenant University graduation. So I feel like as I'm going, it feels like, oh, my auntie and uncle are getting married. And yeah, but I'm happy And I was also able to bring a friend along as a plus one. I think most of you might also know her too if you've been listening to this podcast long enough. Pearl, who did, and I think till date, her episode has the most downloads, over 400 downloads. When we talked about her almost dropping out of her PhD. Today, she will, if by the special grace of God, she will be a graduate come next year, and we're all looking forward to it. And hopefully she'll be back on this podcast to share the story. So yes, guys, I hope you stay tuned on Instagram. I plan to, as much as my vacation, I've tried as much as possible to remove all pressure, to tell myself, you don't have to vlog. If you want to do it for yourself. Nobody asked you, that's my mantra. Nobody ever asked me for this content. So if I'm doing it, I must be doing it for myself. And then if it ends up being fun for others to watch, glory be to God, So yeah. And so yeah, that makes me happy. So now jumping into the feedback from the 3 people who sent me feedback, I would really like to thank you, honestly. And 3 of you said, I asked how satisfied were you with the last episode you listened to, and 3 of you out of 4, you hit 4. So thank you. I'll try not to let my trust issues, interfere with that. Thank you for thinking the 4/4 is a 10/10, And then the first response says, I know the Non-Oregon Students podcast is meant to be a podcast that discusses your journey from Nigeria to the US and how you're navigating corporate America. I was wondering whether you'd be comfortable sharing your other interests. I noticed that there are a number of topics you would like to discuss, but it seems you're not comfortable discussing them because of who your audience might be. I understand that, but I wanted to let you know that we are here to listen regardless. And this makes me smile. It made me smile when I first read it, and I'm still smiling. So thank you. And it's an anonymous form. So, and I still gave the opportunity to leave your name, but nobody left the name. So thank you so much. Thank you that you're still here to listen. I appreciate that. I try, I don't have a lawyer. For a lot of other podcasts I listen to, I can promise you, I'm so sure that their content, I don't want to assume though, might be backed up by legal rights and all, which I try to get my podcast to be. And I live in a very litigated society where people are charged for libel and defamation. So I'm really protecting myself, because if I ever get subpoenaed, I'll be subpoenaed to jail or nobody's going to go with me. I cannot say people listen and we're not offended, so I shouldn't go to jail. So and if anything at all, I feel like I already say a lot, but yeah. But yeah, and actually a lot of stuff that I do is actually protected legally, like my podcast website, the podcast content and all of that is actually kind of protected. So maybe I should be more free. But at the same time, it begs that if you're doing something like this, you should do it with wisdom. But yeah, I'll keep sharing. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think at the beginning of this episode, coincidentally, I also shared some of my interests, things I do outside of work, painting, acting classes, going to see my friends, candle making and comedy clubs, and sometimes going out to eat, going for girl dates. I've posted a couple of that on my Instagram, like when I went to see Barbie with my good friend. I don't know that I have much more interest than that. I also like to speak to my family now. Last year when I first started working, I was always so encumbered with work. I was such a workaholic, I didn't even have time. My WhatsApp messages were unread 56, 70 messages. But now I feel like my life is more stable now. And, even my work with God, I feel like it's growing more, my prayer life, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now I'm beginning to I don't know if this is oversharing, but but yes, but so far, yeah, that's me. But thank you for writing anyway. Then someone else said, I would like to hear you talk more about managing your finances as a non-immigrant student. I've been trying to write up, not just content, but write up, if I want to talk about my finances, what would I share? And it's a very dicey topic. As much as I want to share, I also feel like some people might cringe for me oversharing, even though I don't have a problem with it, even though I feel like some people think, oh, you don't want to take advantage of you. You can't take advantage of me except I allow you to, right? That's how I see it. And now, the more I interact with people, I'm beginning to learn tips and tricks of how people can literally manipulate you, into dropping your money against your will. So, I'm getting wiser. And also some people are like, oh, they can come for you. And it's true, people do have financial attacks, and I understand that. But I'm still figuring. Today I was on the call with my 401k and my financial investors, because Google offers that perk where you can have advisors like advise you on your tax and how you want to save, brokerage accounts, Roth IRA, and this is all specific to the US, right? But I feel like there's still so much more. Like today, I was like, I need to sell some stocks. The market rates are dropping. Like I'm all learning by myself. And so I feel like it would take a while before I get there. But I would recommend you listening to my Rich BFF. She's not necessarily like teaching you 1+1, invest 50% here, 20% here. She's just teaching you about the experience and the cultural ideas around money, which I feel like makes me much more aware. So I really enjoy listening to her, and I follow her on Instagram too, because a lot of the stories she shares helps give insight into how I should be thinking about my money too. And thankfully, I think I have a good mindset around money. I believe money comes, money goes. I don't hold money tight to my chest. Like I'm not one of those people that are doing the FIRE plan of financial independence and retire early. Even the 401k, when they're like maxed, I'm like, if I die today, who's like, yes, they're beneficiaries to that account, but like what next? Like, please, money should not be tied to someone's chest like that. Yes, I know we're all trying to like buy a house, buy a car, plan for a wedding, like there are real things to save for health. But yeah, you should also maximize the quality of your life and enjoy while you can. Money comes, money goes. And then I got some other comments, like if I was seated right beside you, I asked a question. If I was seated right beside you, what's the one thing you'd like to say to me or chat with me about? And I asked you all to humor me. And then someone said, I'd like to tell you that success isn't linear, and I think life is more of a time and chance and not always hard work or intellect. And I completely agreed. Where this person wrote it, it feels like I gave them the impression that success was linear and life was hard work and intellect. And if I did, I apologize. I mean, that is true for certain people, but it's also not true for other people. I've shared this scripture before at some place that I was asked to come speak at or share my testimony. My favorite scripture, I think, is in Ecclesiastes 9 verse 10, how the race is not to the swift, the battle is not to the strongest. Not everyone who goes to school ends up being the richest, but it all happens by time and chance. If I'm paraphrasing it right. And that was my story as at when I got into Google. Aside like all of the hard work I put in after I was asked to come interview, I don't think I had put in enough work to even be called for the interview, if you know what I'm saying. It just so happened that there was an entry-level role, there was an opening. I even got to a stage where they almost bounced me, where they were like, they lost the head count for me on my team. And God, so good. Let me sound like my mommy Geos, my aunties in Redeem. God so good that the person who was going to drop me recommended me to my current manager today and was like, I have a good candidate. I think you should take a look since you have a head count on your team. And by luck, that's in short, is a whole testimony, which I think I've already shared here. But I definitely agree with you. Success is definitely not linear. Sometimes I just sit and wait. I'm like, God, when am I going to experience a downturn in my success? I mean, you shouldn't, of course, that's the devil speaking to me, because I know that not everyone progresses forever at a steady rate there. And I'm like, okay, God, what will my trials and tribulations look like? I have those questions too. And I understand that for some people, it takes a while. But I think in case this was a question of faith or worry or doubt, I would say this is something I used to tell myself while I was still in the job process, that I know that God will work it out, It's just how long am I willing to wait for it? How long am I willing to tarry in place of faith for it, I know I'm going to get this job, but how long? And I also know God is a God that comes through on time, an on-time God. And this is me plugging the new song that was just released by Woman Evolve. It's called On Time God. And you can listen wherever you stream music. So those two things hold true, that God does come through, especially when it is in his plans and his purpose for you. And it will come through, but how long am I willing to wait for it to come? So yes. Now the second comment was one thing you like to say to me. Someone said, I actually don't really like the story of Esther as portrayed in the Bible. It's a beautiful name though, but I would like to know your thoughts when you're done reading it. Yes, I think I mentioned this in the last episode that I was stepping into the fullness of my middle name, Esther, and I was going to be reading that passage again. To be honest, I haven't even read it again since then. But then I said I was going to share from what I remember about who Esther is. I don't know if everyone that listens is a Christian or faith, but it's a Bible story of a I don't think she was a princess. I think she was just a common girl. So apparently the king of that nation, I'm going to highly paraphrase it. Please, if you're a highly skilled, knowledgeable Bible student, forgive any loopholes in this story. But I'm going to say it was a king of the nation. I think King Xerxes, yeah, or something, or Hazard. Let me not try. And he was holding a banquet, and his first wife Vashti, I think he called her out, and she told them to tell him that she can't come, or whether, basically the queen kept the king waiting, and then the king ordered that all the virgins, I mean the beautiful virgins and the best girls in the world, be summoned to the palace so he could pick his wife. And then that's how Esther got into the palace, and eventually she found out that one of the king's advisors was going to kill the Jews. He hated the Jews. And then, her cousin, who used to stay at the gate, who was also respected in the city, now told her that, what if you were asked to come to what if you were chosen to be in the palace for such a time as this? That's one of the most potent scriptures in Esther, that this is the time for you to talk to the king, let him know what this evil man is planning, one of his advisors is planning. If he really loves you, I think he would listen to you. And then the whole gist was that the king, Esther nobody could talk to the king unless he summoned them. And why would the king summon Esther except when he wanted to be with her? So I feel like what the person too doesn't like about these stories, I remember reading it and thinking, ew, when they say things like they asked Esther, the maids came and dressed Esther up to get her ready to go into the king's chambers. That's quite disgusting. I mean, I know that they are husbands and wife, but she's one of his many wives. So, of course, it feels very weird that she's just being used. He has so many wives at his beck and call and concubines. So maybe, I mean, that's the one story of Esther that I don't like. But, she was queen. So eventually, against all rules, she dared to go meet the king. I mean, after she had prayed for 3 days and fasted she called all the Jews together. So it was like someone who rose up in their nation and fought for change. And eventually she went into the king's chambers, even without him summoning her, and he didn't order for her to be killed. And then eventually she exposed the evil guy that was going to kill the Jews. And then what else happened after that? And then eventually he died. I know he dug a grave, not grave, but something, a hanging, I don't know the name that was used in the Bible specifically, for them to hang Mordecai. And yeah, it's a very interesting story anyway, and I think it's about 10 chapters or so. I don't remember now, but I wonder why you don't like the story though. but I think, what are my thoughts on it? I think that if I was to choose anything about this character in the Bible that I would like seeing in my life, I think it's the boldness which she displayed in going to meet the king. And I always see Esther as a very young girl, beautiful girl. So I imagine that, where did she get those balls from, to actually go to see the king when her life was literally at stake? And she did it with so much grace and honor that even when the king saw her, he even asked her to stand up. He pointed his scepter towards her, and I think asked her what is it that she wanted, So I know that boldness to be able to gather people who needed to pray and actually go and fight for her people. Even though, she had a voice in her ear, her uncle supporting her. But I feel like there's only so much that can do if you're also not bold on the inside. And I think that's my favorite thing about Esther, honestly. So I don't know why you don't like it, but maybe you can give me more context to that. And then lastly, someone said, I'd like to tell you that I'm scared I won't be able to find my feet by the time I'm done with NYSC, and that I'll miss an important deadline for admissions or job applications. I'm giving it my best though. And honey, sis, bro, that's all that matters. Like, giving it your best. And for people that might not know, NYSC is National Youth Service Corps, I believe. So it's a 1-year program we do where it's like you're, in air quotes, kind of serving your country. Like serving, it's like and I know Israel has a similar program like this where they like join the military. Everybody joins the military for 1 year, and I feel theirs is cooler because I have an Israeli colleague at work, and he told me how they actually join like special forces operation, the infantry, people who will deal with weaponry. Like, it's much cooler than what we do. We just go to one camp and act like paramilitary, and then it's all fun and games while it lasts, but once you're out of that camp, it's hell. Like my NYC, the last days were hell, and I honestly, I don't like to say I regret it, but yeah, it felt like hell towards the end. So I know what you mean. I remember during my NYC, when I started preparing for GRE, I used to go to a library in Ikoyi every Friday because I think that was the same day for my EDS. So I would go in the morning in my NYC outfit, and most days, I promise you, I would always sleep off trying to study English and math. It was all so tiring. Sometimes I couldn't even see the vision anymore, or why I wanted to leave the country. It just became like, why? Why do you think you need to leave? Just because your friends are leaving? I had a good job then, but so like, what really was pursuing me? So I understand what you mean. But I hope that you do find your feet by the time you're done with NYC, and I hope you don't miss any important deadline. And if it makes you feel any better, when I submitted my Cornell admission, deadline was January 5th, 12 midnight. I submitted January 4th, 11:57 p.m. I know I'm quite crazy. I do things, I work best under pressure, I swear, I promise. So it's like, I was like, I'm going to dot those I's and those freaking T's, till the last minute. And so, don't let the deadlines disturb you. I mean, actually, don't even listen to my advice. Please, I think I've changed now. Please try to plan ahead to submit 1 week before if you can, over plan. I promise you. Some people say if you over plan, you'll be disappointed. There's that school of thought that you can be flexible and then, let life just take you wherever you want to go, and so you won't be disappointed too much. But me, I don't think like that. Me, I think like I over plan so that whatever eventually happens, I know I did my best. So I can never even guilt trip myself into saying I did not put in effort. Me, that's how my brain works, and and I'm happy you ended it. You're giving it your best, so that when you look back, I know even if I never made it to the US, I will look back and be like, I did everything I could. I was jumping bus from Lekki to Ikeja to Mavit. There was one school, something Mavit. Every Saturday, and me that I don't even know how to deal with those agberos, I will be jumping, paying to be, when I remember that journey, to go for lessons. Even when I get to those lessons, I'll still not understand what the math the guy was teaching. It was a lot. And eventually, when I wrote my GRE exam the second time, I had to get a second tutor that could now come to Lekki Phase 1 to help me. Would meet at a cafe there, and then he would teach me. And that was how I started learning. And I had to start waking up at 4 a.m. because my Nigerian mom, she would come and wake us everybody 6 a.m. that it's time for devotion. Nobody used to hear that you're studying, that I want to be studying. In short, let me never even go into African parents and their trauma. That's in short, this person that said that there are some things I'm holding back. That's one thing that I want to say with my chest, but I cannot, because I don't want to sound like an ungrateful child. I also don't want to sound like, and that's the thing. Like Oprah Winfrey once said in a podcast I listened to, that's the thing with toxicity. It usually comes from people you love the most, so you're never able to delineate it, like to separate it, to actually see it for what it is. But please, and now in all of this, I love my mom, so it's crazy. But anyway, she would say that it's time for morning devotion. She will knock on the door and she will blow in that tambourine. If people know what I'm saying, those that know what I'm saying, know how annoying this thing is, So I had to say, okay, before this, my mother will come because she will wake up at 5 to do her own prayer. I will wake up at 4 so that I could learn new words. I could at least, my teacher would give me assignments, I would be like, okay, I'm going to do 10 exercises before my whole house wakes up. In the evening, I used to come back from work with someone. I would be like, okay, while I'm in the car, because it might look rude that I'm doing my own thing when she's trying to talk to me. I'm like, okay, I will be looking at words, even though I can't learn. But if my brain remembers it, it associates it with something. So I never let any pocket of time go. I kept putting in my best, and that's a lot of hard work. I don't know that everybody can do it like that. Neither, but like you said, you're doing your best, and I just pray that your best is enough. I really pray for you that time and chance aligns so that your best will be enough. And this brings me to the end of this episode, I believe. I hope I didn't leave anything out. But yes, thank you guys for writing to me. This feels so wholesome that I can respond to you guys. So I'm really grateful. I appreciate you. I will sneak in and the feedback link again in the podcast description notes. So please be sure to check it out. So like I said, 2 more sleeps to Mexico. Tomorrow I'm also out of office. I told them I will not be taking my laptop. I think I've already announced it. I don't know if I've said it, but because sometimes they be looking for me at work and I'm like, you guys don't look for me. So tomorrow I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to my wedding, the dress I plan to wear for the wedding. I need to go check that it fits in all the right places. It snatches in all the right places, Even myself, I can't wait. I've already planned that. God, please just help me to look fine so that I can use that angel song that Halle Bailey sang. I actually really like that song. I've listened to lyrics so many times. It's such a beautiful and empowering song. I'm like, I must use it on top of one of my posts. And if you guys see that picture, please comment that you listened to this episode and I said it. Okay, guys, that's it from me. Have a lovely, lovely rest of your week. I'll see you either in Mexico or when I come back to New York. Yeah, and I hope you're also doing well wherever you are. I hope you're in good health. I hope that God is providing for you. I hope that blessings are flowing. I hope that you are trusting, you are believing, you're praying, and hopefully everything works out together for our good. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, bye, guys.